What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, and we have officially made it to training camp. It feels so good to have headlines, rumors, and everything else to report on because the Eagles are actually on a football field. We don't have to make up content, whether it's Good Morning Football on NFL Network or our simple podcast here. We will tell you from about May through July. It is really tough to do this, but alas, it does not matter anymore because the Eagles are back on the field. Football is back. Training camp is in full swing. So let's talk about everything going on with the Eagles in the first few days of training camp. Before we get into that, make sure to like this video so we keep popping up on your feed and subscribe so you know when new videos are coming. And they should be, because Kevin and I will be back with a full show later this week talking about everything Eagles and Cowboys training camp. And there's a ton around the league going on too. So make sure to subscribe. But let's do it. Let's talk about the early takeaways from Eagles camp. What's going on? Who's shining? Who's the standout? Who is struggling, possibly? I heard Nick Sirianni wasn't thrilled with the first day of camp. So let's take a look, and we start with who we started with back in April, and that is the Georgia guys. So as of today, or as of the first practice, I guess I should say, this is from Jeff Kerr. Nolan Smith has beaten Jack Driscoll on back-to-back plays. His speed off the edge is incredible. Would have had a sack on the first play. Smith is against the second-team offense. So this is the best. I am so excited about this because multiple reasons. One, it just means that the draft strategy of drafting a bunch of Georgia guys works. And the fact that they are acclimating right away would be fantastic. And I think these guys are going to be much needed this season. They're going to need impact from rookies right away. Nolan Smith, especially because I don't really know what Derek Barnett is at this point. The last time we saw him, it was Mr. It's Always Him, and he wasn't exactly a coach favorite or a fan favorite. And now he's coming off the ACL tear. What is his productivity level? I don't know. Or is he in a contract year and he increases his productivity and he's on his best behavior, not running into the quarterback 5 minutes after he's thrown the ball? I really don't know what to expect, but I would just feel more comfortable if Nolan Smith was filling in as that kind of second defensive end with Brandon Graham, I guess you could say, or Josh Sweat. I don't know who you kind of consider the starter there, but to have four of those guys and then Barnett as the wild card would be very nice from the defensive end position. Now, Nolan Smith was not the only Georgia Bulldog who stood out on day one. Jalen Carter as well was singled out by Jason Kelce in terms of who had a good day. He had a pressure and had one of the sacks in quotes, I guess I should say, on Jalen Hurts, which is great to see. I think we expected Nolan Smith to be prepared. We just didn't know if size-wise he could hold up. So the fact that he's blown around the edge right now is fantastic, and his speed is off the charts. But Jalen Carter had all the talent, but he was in the headlines for all the wrong reasons leading up to the draft. And you wanted to make sure that this kid was the stud that we expected him to be when he was at Georgia. So to start off well and get, praise and be singled out by one of the captains of the team, a guy in year 13, that's a good start. That's what I would like to see from a guy who, when everything was getting pointed his way this offseason, it wasn't for good things most times. So I'm glad to see that he was pointed out on day one, and hopefully that continues throughout training camp, and conditioning shouldn't be an issue either, which would be very, very nice because that was another thing that people were concerned about. So the Georgia guys right off the bat doing really well. So we're really excited to see that going on. Now, another thing that we saw, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith said they were in sync today. We love to see that. I think Devontae Smith, who came in as number 100 on the NFL Top 100, this will be a huge year for him. To see that they are in sync already is expected, but I also think it is promising. We talked about this on the podcast. Worried about injuries this year. A.J. Brown has been injured in the past. I don't love the depth at the wide receiver position because Quez Watkins is kind of this like in-between question mark kind of right now. So we're kind of waiting to see how that plays out. And Olamide Zaccheaus, I like the signing, but what is he going to provide? So to have that reliability in Devontae Smith, I wouldn't expect anything less. It's kind of been his calling card through Alabama and with the Eagles so far. It's just, he's not Justin Jefferson, but he is insanely reliable. So to see that on day one is very good, especially because early on it seemed like Nick Sirianni was not thrilled with how the drills were going and the sloppiness with pre-snap penalties and stuff like that. So to have that steadiness, to have the reliability that Devontae Smith provides is very nice. Now, sticking with the offense, what we also saw, Rashaad Penny got the first carry of the day. Now, Is he RB1? I saw a lot of fantasy guys talking about this. Elliot Shore Parks tweeted out that Rashaad Penny got the first carry. All the fantasy guys kind of jumped on that and said, look who RB1 is. I'm not so sold. DeAndre Swift was lined up at different positions here early on in camp, getting him the ball in terms of the passing game and the rushing game. And I hold a lot of stock in Kenny Gainwell, and I always have, and I really think he's going to get the bulk of this workload in the backfield, especially as the year wears on, and two guys with injury history might start to slow down. So, yes, Rashaad Penny got the first carry. He is technically RB1, but again, if you're here trying to find a guy for fantasy, I don't know if there's one guy that you would like. I think this is going to be a running back by committee. In the real world, I love the trio. In fantasy, I would stay away from the Eagles' backfield because you just don't know who's going to get the carries. And also, when you're at the goal line, like we kind of know who's going to take it in from the 1 yard line. We saw it about 17 times last year who gets the carries on the QB sneaks at the goal line. Yeah, it's not going to be Swift. It's not going to be Gainwell. It's not going to be Boston Scott unless it's the Giants. And it's not going to be DeAndre Swift. It's going to be Jalen Hurts. He's got 600 pounds and this offensive line is full of behemoths. Also, speaking of the offensive line, Cam Jurgens started at right guard. I feel like everybody expected that, and it makes sense. We'll see if he transitions over after Jason Kelce retires to center, but right now it just feels like he is your right guard and will probably be your right guard going into the season if he is healthy through training camp and through the preseason. Now, the last thing, this wasn't really a training camp note, but it really stuck out to me today. The Eagles social media team, who has been having themselves a week with the Kelly Green teasers. I think they are in full troll mode, which is hilarious. They released a video, and it was day one of camp. So they said, all right, we're going to release this video of all the captains talking to the team the night before the Super Bowl. And Jason Kelce really stuck out. All of them really did, because all of their words meant so much. But he was breaking down and he was in tears and he was talking about his emotions. And he was like, I don't even know if these are good emotions, but when you just come so far as a group standing in front of you guys, like to be here, to be in this moment and to just savor this moment and to just appreciate what this moment is. And it just really hit me. Like I wanted to tear up myself listening to him, knowing this is a guy on the back end of his career, knowing he was about to play his brother in the Super Bowl, knowing that this could be. And I still think this, if they won that game, he probably would not have come back and just ended up leaving on the mountaintop. And he might have been thinking that during that speech. And he's filled with all these emotions and he's crying. And all I can think about as they pan to him hugging Lane Johnson as the red and white confetti streams to the ground as the Chiefs win the Super Bowl is that I hope Jonathan Gannon enjoys the seventh layer of hell. To have your foot out the door, to be looking at other jobs with that moment on the line, to sit in that room and listen to Jason Kelce talk about what a moment it is and to be overcome with emotions. And you're thinking of how you're going to handle the organization of the Arizona Cardinals roster. Scumbag. Enjoy hell. You see that in college all the time where these coaches preach about the brotherhood, about being strong in the locker room and having each other's back. I am my brother's keeper. And then they leave the locker room and they're talking to the conference above them to lock in more millions for themselves. And they're leaving after the bowl game. Jonathan Gannon was exactly that. He's the guy who stands up there and tells you all these great things. And meanwhile, he's got his foot out the door. Scumbag, enjoy hell. It just made me so much more upset that we lost that game, seeing Jason Kelce break down, thinking and talking about that game, and just realizing that Jonathan Gannon's defense couldn't get one stop for guys like Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, or Jalen Hurts. You stink. I have that game circled New Year's Eve. I cannot wait to just destroy the Cardinals. You'd think on Birds vs. Boys that we would have Eagles Cowboys circled, and we do. But in reality, I think I have 49ers and Cardinals circled this year. I need 2 wins this year. Those are it. So those are the early notes. Again, it seemed like it was a little bit sloppy getting back on day one, but some shining stars that are the young guys, we will need them to produce this year. So that is great to see early on that they are getting acclimated. We'll be back with our regular show, a lot of news and notes through both camps and throughout the NFL as a whole. A few different free agent signings, some contract extensions, a few holdouts, and then the Hard Knocks with the Jets as well. So we'll be back. Make sure to like and subscribe. It's great to have football back, baby. We'll see you soon.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds vs. Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is
Dude,
gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That
Be
it?
the team you promised me you were going to be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.